Welcome to discussion of the Naked Spur. For some reason, uh, though I'm sure everyone knows why, I had to truncate the title on the stream. It just would not update it. Now, The Naked Spur is a book by Alexander Adams. I've quite enjoyed it. It's, how do I want to put it? It's a look into the inner life of the artist in a way that, uh, well, it's not fake glamour. That's the best way I could put it. I've seen some shows and I've seen some this and that here and there, and very little of it really gets the old noggin jogging about the how do I want to. I keep saying how do I want to put it. That's probably a bad habit. It gets the noggin jogging about, oh, I can be so creative and wonderful, and I'll have troubles, but don't you worry, friends. Um, I'll get a patron, and I'll get this, and I'll get all my dreams come true, and it's a feel good movie, right? And of course, it nukes people's mindsets and ruins their ability to really understand uh, what they're actually going to be going through. You have to work to be an artist. People go on about money this, money that, but quite frankly, you should have a product to sell by the end of it. Now, you should love what you're doing, because quite frankly, if you don't care what you're doing, you should just become an actuary or something, an accountant, you gray man, you non-entity, you void in the warp. If you don't love anything, just do whatever gets you the most money with the least effort. You know, don't make art, sort of say. But even if you're passionate, even if you do it and you don't expect, money out of it, if and you should be outcome independent in general, but also as an artist, because otherwise you get caught up and lose your creativity. Uh, where was I going? Oh, right. If you're not passionate about it, but if you're not willing to create a product, you're not really doing it for the art. Someone who makes a statue for their own garden is producing a piece of art, but if they hide it away, it's just a weird thing, an idol, perhaps at best, or a piece of junk your children won't understand and throw away. The reason why I'm talking about this is because this is one of the central themes within the Naked Spur. Why is the character A creating art? It's not in a sort of existential sort of meaning, but rather it's in the sense of, what is he doing it for? The why, but not the why. Anyone can say, I like to draw. I'm going to dabble a bit in drawing. Nathan Hood and others have a future castle project that I'm going to produce some sketches for, and it's going to be very cool, and I'm going to have some cool ideas. It's going to be rad, but it's not necessarily going to be like the art I dedicate myself to, like writing. It's just something I'm going to do for my delight and perhaps the delight of others. But what if there isn't any delight from others? What if there isn't even a few fans here and there who love your work? The Naked Spur is a story of an artist like that, where he produces this work that his peers praise sometimes, but quite frankly, he's met with empty words again and again and again. People don't buy his paintings like they should, or he thinks they should. He spends time working on art that isn't well appreciated. It's really sort of depressing in a way. That is hard for non-artists to understand. Anyone can how do I want to put it? Anyone can produce an image and put it to pen and paper and everything else like that. But it takes somebody to um, who has a sort of sense of will to make it worthwhile. One of the things that you might hear from a lot of people is that something like nudes aren't art, or XYZ isn't art. It's not a matter of subjective thing. It's a matter of objective. What's the intention of the art? Is the intention of the art to titillate or to go for something more interesting? You know, is a naked woman jumping off a cliff a sort of pornographic thing for those sickos into women falling to their deaths, if such a thing exists? Um, or is it, a sort of moment of freedom, a glimpse of sensuousness in between the hard ground and the hard ground leapt from? That moment of ecstasy in the middle of the sinful earth. You could actually make an argument for that. But there's ways to sort of ruin it, to uh, give up meaning for excitement. The character A goes through and buys what are essentially personnel ads with naked people, but normal naked people. Let's see here. I'm at the right place. There we go. He looked at magazines at the on the top shelf. He picked a couple, leafed through them, replaced them. On the cover of a magazine called Sex Direct was a woman wearing jewelry and makeup kneeling on a bed. A circular inset showed a woman lifting off her t-shirt. There was a graphic strip blanking over her eyes. Text read, "Local contacts, meet me inside." A carried the magazine to the counter and paid for it. He put it in his bag before leaving the shop. There's a sort of uh, organic flow through of the stream of consciousness. Thank you. Going through this character's life. Clerkenwell Road to Hatton Garden. Two Indian men rested against a car, both concentrating on their mobile phone screens. Orthodox Jews carrying suitcases walked in synchronized step. A security van pulled up outside a jeweler's. A emerged on Holborn and crossed over the street. He entered a door next to a fast food restaurant, went through another door, and reached a small lobby. A guard at the desk gave him a nod. Waiting for the lift, he checked his watch. Uh, there's more. It feels almost like you're walking with him, that you're walking as him. You check your watch, you check you look around. I've walked through St. Louis streets and seen different things, of a similar nature. I walked from Russell to 7th Street. I saw a homeless man scratching at an engorged leg. There was a woman sitting in her car texting on her phone. I got to the front door of Duke's and nodded to T, where I then walked to the bar and decided what I was going to order for dinner. There's a sort of similar feel. It creates a verisimilitude, a sort of realness to life, even a malaise that pushes forward within the story. You're not just a voyeur. You're not watching the sensuousness of his actions. You're watching the step by step, the boring sort of life, and you're seeing a sort of London that I keep saying sort of too. I must be like lobotomized or something. You see a London of a different era where there is, diversity coming in, different tribes and so on living within London streets, which is not so weird a thing. When people talk about, England being 90+% white before 2000 or whatever, in reality, most of the diversity was not distributed throughout England, right? It was in London, in Manchester, in I don't know, port towns. Point is, port towns and financial districts. So him walking around artist districts, which have always been diverse neighborhoods, you get to see something. There's actually very few English people running around who aren't artists or working in the art field. Um, it's very interesting in that way. Uh, you keep on going through it. Um, at the fifth floor, he exited the lift and used an electronic pass to unlock a door. The room he was in had a cluster of mismatching desks with computers, chairs, and stained upholstery pushed underneath. He opened a drawer and put his bag in. He walked back to the lift lobby and walked through a gallery kitchen to reach a toilet. He locked the cubicle door behind him and buckled over the toilet bowl, vomiting until nothing more came up. He pulled a length of paper from the toilet roll, wiped the bowl rim before flushing away the wad of tissue. Outside, the lobby was empty. And then this is the next chapter. The couple was arguing on the street. A leant on the windowsill in the office. The air conditioning from the grill unsettled his shirt front. The couple was standing on the corner of Gray's Inn Road and Holborn. The woman was wearing a dress and high heels. The man had baggy clothes and a baseball cap. He was shrugging, arms wide. She was shaking, jabbing a finger at him. As they walked by, passerby were turning their heads to watch. The man was shaking his head, face averted. The woman was shouting. No sound passed through the double glazing. The woman bent towards him. The man approached her, jutting his face to hers. Then he took a step back and gestured her away. At the clothing shop, a pair of sales assistants loitered at the entrance. People at the bus stop were watching. The woman walked a few steps, shouted at the man, and turned to cup her face in her hands. Her head shook and sides jerked convulsively. The man was shouting at her, waving an arm. The man stopped. A woman stopped by the crying woman and spoke to her, and so on and so forth. Eventually, the couple makes up. Like I said, there's a voyeurism, multiple layers of voyeurism put together, but not for anything interesting. In fact, the couple arguing with each other is the most interesting of the life that we kind of see with them. It's the other people. We're reading from the existence of a sort of non-entity. A man who does exist has feelings, but is unable to sort of put them into a powerful phrase, a powerful way to live, a phase of life. Um, it's non-life in a way. Even when he interacts with people. Um, Let me see here. This is with somebody who, they like each other. Not in that way, but they just like each other. Hey, A. Hi, A. How are you? Hey, Eleanor, not interrupting, am I? I'm finishing this order. Not a problem. How's your art going? They're talking. Uh, but, eventually it turns into some sort of, you know, sort of just business. Uh, their art dealer isn't treating them right. He's been in the business long enough. It's shocking. I saw one of Angela's paintings in a corner and it had a tear in the front. I asked one of the assistants what happened, and she mumbled something about the courier having an accident. I didn't believe her for a second. My paintings would be safer being driven around the country and unloaded every day for a year than they would be supposedly safe in Gareth's store for 1 month. My God, Angela is Gareth's darling now. Sachi's bought her stuff. Imagine if he treats his star that way, what he's doing to our stuff. I promised myself I had to say something to him the next I saw him. And so on, so there. They talk. He's interested. This is actually some more personality. But then you go to, let me see here. Let me see. When he's talking to his model, it's mostly her talking. It's very little of him. He's drawing her. She's his model. She's naked, talking, but really it's just her stream of consciousness while he focuses on his art. His nudes and so on and so forth. You talking to this, the man A is standing there. The woman at the counter picked up the telephone and pressed one key. Goran, have we got the biggest Macbeth easel in storage? He's barely even a character in his own work. No, people are reacting to him mechanically. No chance, said one of the men. That's not going anywhere. We're on our lunch. Fuel strike, etc., etc. It takes the boss to get them to work. They can't do it for the business. He has to be forced. He's talking to someone. Ibrahim who is, I believe, a roommate of the characters, talking to him again. It must be very satisfying to work with your hands, not have to deal with words. Ibrahim was standing at the back door smoking. Uh, there we go. To do something physical, that's like, an artist making a shoe, or I don't know, a table. I get the urge sometime to make things with my hands. I don't know what. Then the urge goes away. A tapped the linen tight over the stretcher with his hammer. He's making frames and canvases for his artist's work. Uh, he squinted. He was squatting on the garden path, surrounded by square canvases. It's a whole different way of putting ideas across. Art, you must show me more of your stuff. I believe they've been living together for years at this point, or at least a year. Months, certainly. I'm just getting ready for work. What about you? Haven't you usually gone by now? I quit my job. Oh, really? Hey, that's great. I wish I could. You're lucky, but you've got some savings, right? Some. That's great. I'm pleased for you, but be careful. I find that money never goes as far as you expect it to, in my experience, anyway. Uh, the gray cat approached the open tub of primer. Ibrahim watched him. Be careful, Vish. I don't want to have to wash you, man. How great it must be to be a cat. Imagine that. No work, no money, just food and sleeping, and killing the occasional mouse. You got it good, Vish, he called to the cat. Uh, it's it's barely a conversation. I don't know how much other people have experienced it, this sort of thing, but I certainly have, where you're talking to people and you're just not able to sort of get in a word edgewise. And even if they are letting you get in a word edgewise, it's not really something that they care to listen to, right? They're just expecting you to speak, which is completely different from having a conversation. But at the same time, they feel that they've had a conversation. Many intelligent people feel this, but stupid people do this to each other all the time. I see it constantly. It's a human sort of thing. A lot of people put like narcissism to it, but in reality, it's just kind of living. You have to expect that people aren't really having a conversation with you. You have to. It's why. Excuse me. It's excuse me. Hmm, pardon me. It's why having friends who are able to have conversations with you is so important. It kills the loneliness. While I do believe that loneliness is a certain part of life, especially the artist's life, there's a difference between loneliness, solitude, and isolation. A is isolated. He talks to people. He's working with people on a project where basically he'll like paint their nudes if they want it, and give it to them for like boudoirs and stuff like that in an anonymous service. He talks to it. He talks to Mac, and Mac just talks on for pages about things, about their project. And then he goes, what do you think? Are you into it? Yes. And then you have another paragraph. Yes. Yes, we're meeting at the office at 7. 7. My office is number 18 Brand Street. 18 Brand Street. I'm in Soho. So fine, I'll be there. See you then. So it's like there's a gap between, are these people really as narcissistic as they seem, or is it that A just doesn't have the self will to push through, right? Does he have the ability to um does he have the ability to sort of conquer their wills, to push into their willpower structures? No, he sort of lets things happen to him. He lets um, people stand over him in a way, and refuses to let them. Um, refuses to let himself flourish within the world that he has to function in. Uh, a lot of people discover as they get older that the opportunities don't just come and sit at your lap. You have to sort of put yourself forward for opportunities to happen to you. And he's in that sort of gray zone, that nothing morass, that swamp, that rotting thing, where you want to have opportunities and you're working forward for opportunities, but they just aren't coming like you think they are. Instead, they're rotting on the vine. There's these good ideas, but fundamentally, he has to take more ownership of his life, but he just doesn't. This is a spoil. By the way, I'm going to cut it off here. Spoilers from here to the end of the book. Do check out the book. It's well worth the read. It's hard to just kind of read a portion of it and sort of give you the idea of it. It's the whole thing. It's the whole thing of the book together. You're walking. You're seeing this through A's eyes. But spoiler alert for the rest of the book. So the business doesn't go well. He doesn't have great stuff. He continues to try to talk to people, but it doesn't really come to anywhere. The Naked Spur is just a failure. He's unable to really fulfill some of the needs that the business has. Instead, he's caught, when his friend who is helping him with some of the online stuff, advertising, and so on, just doesn't have the time to help him with this. Doesn't want to really turn his project into his project. He wanted to help. He's willing to help, but that's a limited thing. Your art project only gets up if you are able to, you as in cuck, you take the responsibility, take the ownership of it. If you don't, it never gets off the ground. You can't expect people to bend over backwards to help you in anything, unless they're kith and kin and blood related besides. The thinking about stuff like that, people talk down to him. He meets failure. He gets into alcoholism, and not like the cool artist alcoholism, real alcoholism. He's barely giving people one-word answers. The less, the better. It's a failure state that he's accepted into himself. He is a failure and he's working as a failure. He's still trying to, he's taking money whenever he finds it, like a homeless bum. He goes through these things, but his friend doesn't, his friend can't help him. I don't even want to say failure or failed or anything like that. He just kind of, he just kind of can't help him. Like, he has to think about his own things. He's stuck. He's in a place. He hears, children's voices, a male voice speaking Amharic into, I don't even know what Amharic is, into a mobile phone, staccato of high heels. He's become separate, out of touch, out of phase with his environment. He takes a razor and hurts himself. It doesn't even cause him that much pain. He, how do I want to put it? It's not even about the pain. It's not even about, like, the failure of his life. He's just so numb that, a suicide attempt is nothing to him. He gives up on it, and, covers up his wounds. People don't even really, they barely, really do anything for him. Like, there are clear signs. Can I come up? Yes. Elsa appeared at the top of the stairs. She stopped. Is this for me? Yes, thank you. It's lovely. She held the painting. How thoughtful of you. Have you done anything today? I was cleaning the bathroom, but I didn't finish it. I got tired, he says. It could do with a good clean. Elsa was at his door looking at him. On the laminate floor behind them was a smear of blood. I had to throw away your towels. I spilled bleach on them. Sorry. I was going to buy new ones anyway. Never mind. You're okay? Yes. You sure? You look a bit pale. I'm okay. Thank you for the painting. Is there anything I can do for you? Can I get you anything? Could you close the door? I'm a bit sleepy. Okay. Sleep tight. She doesn't call the police. That's the end of the event for that. He if you keep going for it, you look for this, you look for that. Nobody seems to care. Uh, it's going through these things. He's talking to Ibrahim again. This is at the end of the book. You know, it's just I can't even read it out. It would just be a random conversation, just because it's like somebody should be talking to him about anything. Um, but nobody is talking to him about anything. The real conversations was about his business, but eventually, um, it's just a failure. Even when he's trying to, interact with people, get people, interested in his work. Um, what do you think? It's just right. It's there. Adam. Someone's hand was on Hartley's sleeve. A leaned toward Hartley and looked him in the eyes. Adam, you're the painter. Uh, you know, it just, even though there's some interest, uh, in this work, it still doesn't lead to anything. It's like one of those things. There's like no catharsis to it. He's still struggling with these things, but not struggling as in, a drowning man struggling against the waves. He's just kind of sinking. I'll hold. A was watching a man in green overalls and a workman's jacket, scraping ice from the cobblestones between the great posts of Greenwich Park. A's breath fogged the window pane. Hello, hello. You called before. Sorry about that. The courier fucked up our delivery. I had to speak to the executive marketing officer of this Finnish bank. The work met the deadline, but the disc went to the wrong office. Listen, I haven't had much time for your project since we spoke. The launch. The thing is that I've been tied up with this head fuck animation and I haven't had a moment free. Georgette's been picked up by this publishing company in Geneva, so she's not actually in the country at the moment. What about the Valentine's Day launch? There was no answer. Crows in the sky. The man outside straightened and flexed his shoulders. Mac? Nothing's been done. The man bent over a snow shovel. It's not going to happen. I know this is a big deal for you, but you need someone who can work on this full time. I can't make any promises. I know I can't keep them. Georgette knows some PR agents who could work with you on the launch. I can call her. They can help you set up the project, and once it's going Heliotrope X, we'll take over. It's their project now, really. They'll take care of the practicalities and the publicity. All you have to do is paint. I am sorry for you, really. Listen, I have to go. There's someone on the other line. I understand. He hung up the telephone and left the box. When A passed the snow shoveling man, the man asked him for a light. A apologized and walked into the white park. And then there's chapter 99 is fantastic, by the way. It is just it is about the obsession of everything. Uh, you know, in the end, he's the last chapter, he's still looking down on life, looking down as a voyeur on some ideas that frankly don't lead anywhere. He's still not sure. There's just a sort of failure in his face, because he himself didn't work at it hard. He's too numb to work. Like a man in a snowstorm, his nerve endings are dead. They're shot. He can't find the strength anymore, not because of some sort of bodily malfunction, but simply because you have to have strength to pursue something like a dream, not even a big dream, just a little dream. Commissioned, nudes is not a great dream that you can really go for. While this is a dramatization of Alexander Adams' real life, it's still one of the most realistic experiences I've ever read in a book. I've felt these things myself. I've wandered through town, disconnected, voyeuristically watching people. Quite frankly, I've done that more than I have actually interacting with people. Eventually you reach a sort of state where you're isolated from people. You send people messages on your phone, even relatives, who love you dearly, and you don't get an answer back for hours. It's they're doing something important. It's not like you have a right for their time all the time. But you don't get anything back, and you send messages to different people, and sometimes you're just looking for a like on Twitter, a little something of serotonin, just a little something to bide your time until you can give your mom a call or something. Not that I've ever been down that bad, but that would be the more modern version of what he's experiencing now. You experience this negative aspect, and you stop being able to interact with people, and you can only watch them. You can only watch yourself, and you can only watch them. Girls playing volleyball in the park. You're watching them play volleyball at the park, but quite frankly, you're not even really in there playing volleyball. You wouldn't experience it even if you went with them to play. Watching kids play a baseball game. None of your kids are there. You don't know any of the parents. There's no connection to anyone or anything. The teams are both quote unquote away to a foreign baseball park for some reason. Like you talk to people and nothing happens. No one knows anything. No one is anything. The only sympathy this guy gets is from his friend. And even then, it's like, hey, you know, can't do it. Sorry, hope you're okay. Ilsa never called the police or, an ambulance to check up on this guy. Um, and maybe that would be the wrong call, but it would have been something more. It would have been something more than just an existence. With the wounds that he gave himself. Looking at different things, even when people are moderately interested in one of his paintings, he doesn't feel anything. He can't interact. He can't gain anything from it. A moment that would have been catharsis to any other person is just another moment where he's alienated from the people enjoying his work. He doesn't even say any bullshit like, I think meaning is in the eye of the beholder. No one actually talks to him about it. It's again isolation, 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 depression, nothing. And not like, oh, I'm so young and beautiful, but also I'm depressed. Oh, woe is me. Oh, I'm a rich lawyer, but life is meaningless. Oh, I'm a failed lawyer and life is meaningless. I don't even have a jet ski to be happy on. Oh, woe is me. You know, I failed this. I'm in debt. There's nothing like that. He had a job. He had money to live on. He you know, had a life in a way. But in the end, he kind of didn't have to, quit his job for his business idea. Because quite frankly, nobody spends as much time as they think they do on anything. And he certainly doesn't. Even though he doesn't abandon life from the perspective of, um, how do I want to put it? He doesn't abandon life as in uh, he doesn't like as in even though he made a suicide attempt up until that point, he's still not actually abandoning life. He has these ideas that he wants to go to, but he doesn't feel excited about them in the same way that others would, that someone more extroverted would. It's harder to. Sorry, somebody's contacting me. Uh, it's harder to break down somebody who psychologically or whatever who isn't all there, who isn't willing to be more than something they're not. hmm there's chapters where he just kind of is working on things, and it just doesn't mean anything to him. He interacts with the cook. She smiles at him, but there isn't really a deep conversation. There isn't that human connection in the same way. Uh, he wants to leave these human pieces almost as soon as he gets there. Uh, it's an interesting book. It's fascinating to watch because it's, again, realistic, and you experience a very strong reaction to these things. Sure, there's a reaction of, oh, get over it, come on, man, get yourself together, but also a sort of like, what is the world around him like this? I recognize some of the streets he's on. I've walked them myself. I've been down to the Cutty Sark and Holborn and other places. I've walked the same streets. I even remember what some of them look like, even though it's been many, many years. Without people you're interacting with, um, like family or some sort of goal in mind. Wandering London is bleak. You see people like you are wandering past, living their own lives, and they don't look back at you. They don't make eye contact, or if they do, they're a freak like you. Sort of homosexuals and the like. Filled with some malice that you can't really understand. Like, I was walking through London just last year, and this homosexual, or at least I believe he is one, walked out of a clothing store dressed like, and I shit you not, like a JoJo character. He had like this weird suit that kept his midriff bare, and then some pants that like fit him but didn't, and it was all this color of blue that you wouldn't see outside of a garish tuxedo. Or he had a coiffured hairstyle like an anime character. He looked down on me, like I was not good enough to look at him. Which is like, I'm not the freak here. But it's like that, right? You see someone interesting, you see people doing things, but in the end, you're just watching them and not touching their lives. If he remembered me at all, I'd be utterly shocked. Not that we talked or anything like that. It was just passing in the street. But he was dressed so dramatically, you couldn't help but notice him. Maybe that was the point. Maybe it's kind of a reverse voyeurism. People to be watched. People who want to be watched but never touched unless they let you. Pretty girls doing their makeup. But you can't interact with them. Without permission. You have to be at least 6'1" to ride. And not even ride, if you get me, but just to approach the ride. Uh, it's a strange and alienating feeling, of course, but it's marked not by some sort of strange. Um, it's not marked by some sort of strange society. Society continues on as it was made to be, godless and formless, an absolute unto itself. Maybe in another time, this A would be not really a celebrated artist, but a more interesting artist. But quite frankly, the same people have always bought paintings, and the normal people just don't. It's he's not dramatic enough to be of a style, but he's also not willful enough to force his style into being. Characters like Andy Warhol, even though it's a strange thing to say, had an incredibly strong will about them. They forced their art onto people. They had backers and patrons who always, took up the first and the best of everything, or at least the stuff they want. I think would be more accurate. But at the same time, they weren't dictating what they wanted him to create. He was commenting on pop culture, pop art, creating pop art, frankly. But it had to come from somebody who understood and knew and hated almost these things. He created his superstars, but in reality, it was still just kind of all him working on things. David Bowie with his music, or John C. Campbell with what he wanted writing to be. Um, compared to Asimov and Moorcock to the others. He changed his name to Moorcock. Uh, you know, they also had their own will that into um, pushed them into a strong position, position to dominate the wills of others. They could. They would probably, like in some cases, like Andy Warhol, it's clear that he wasn't really a talker. He was very introverted. He would go to interviews and have, one of the women speak for him. He would speak to the woman and she would speak to the guy. And sure, that's a stunt, but other people commented on much of the same thing. He was a sensitive man. Uh, but how do you square that away? The sensitive man with the will to dominate. It's a hard idea. It's a hard mindset to have. Hmm. With the excuse me a second. The only problem with doing these shows by myself is that I have to pay attention to what people are commenting. Otherwise, I lose track. Anyway, to continue on. Um, the Naked Spurs is just a fantastic book overall. The descriptions feel like the places that he's going to in a rough and tumble way, where you know that you have enough to describe it, but also his non-reaction to it. He doesn't feel cold or hot. Except in the extreme. Things ruffle his shirt, but he doesn't feel cold when experiencing the air conditioning. It's excuse me. It's it's very much an empty experience that fails to ground him um, in his world, fails to create interest in his work. There's something wrong, something unable to be birthed forth. And without it, he won't succeed. He won't be able to bring all the things he wants, all the things that he thinks will be good to him together. And ultimately, that's why he fails with his different ventures. Um, he needed to do more marketing, more advertising, more work on the websites and stuff like that. But he's also the artist and he wants to be the artist. He misses out on that self promotion that all the great artists have. And it's done in a way that, doesn't necessarily make sense. But, for him, you can see where his logic comes from. I don't want to do this. I'm supposed to just make my paintings. But the problem is that he does have to do the advertising. Just like anyone else, when they want to create something, they have to, um, when they want to create something, they have to impose on it. Change the canvas, change everything. Uh, yeah. Uh, Alexander Adams has been on this show before several weeks ago. Uh, he was a great interview. I recommend looking through our YouTube channel or looking through the different live streams of the past to pick up some information and sort of get what you want out of this book. Especially from his own words. I am a pale imitator, I guess. I want to thank everyone for supporting the Kickstarter, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. I haven't really received any notifications for anyone wanting to come on from the different places that uh, how do I want to put it, from the different places that this was posted up to. I do want to thank you guys and have a good night.